Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition that we are excited to do. It's called In the Spotlight. My name is Mike Kenichi, and I am your host. And I'm honored today to have a former Ansonia athlete, a great guy who's done a lot in the community, and he is the current baseball coach at Ansonia High, and that's Mr. Patrick Lynch. And Coach, I want to thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, so Coach, we talked a little bit off the air. Obviously, the pandemic affected so many people. It was a real rough year, and it's great to have baseball back. But just talk about like how it affected you personally.
Well, personally, again, last year, as everybody knows, spring sports were not played. Um, so it was to be where I've been around baseball basically since I was 9 years old. Every spring there was baseball, whether I was playing or coaching or watching baseball. And for it to something that was part of my life for over 30 years just kind of get taken away. First and foremost, I felt so bad for our four seniors that were unable to play their senior year. But then, just on a personal level, in terms of my enjoyment of baseball, I mean, there was no baseball on TV for a while. There was no baseball anywhere. So that was definitely a change. And then my own personal family situation stuff. Myself, my wife, and my daughter all tested positive. Luckily, we did not have many
Oh, wow.
symptoms. Um, and it affected because I also coach girls basketball. So we were in a 2-week quarantine early in the year. So to be part of the reason that quarantine happened, I felt I kind of let down some of the players and stuff, but they were very resilient. We came back and played like 10 games in a matter of about 15 days. But it was something in the winter I learned very quickly, and it's something I've tried to relay this spring, that every day is a gift in terms of that they're able to practice or play a game. Where I referenced our four seniors from last year, Garrett and Tyler Cafaro, Matt DeFelice, and Jack Bolin, who were unable to play. So every
Right.
day we had a practice or a game or something got held up because we couldn't do it. I just said, understand that they didn't have anything. So treat every day as pretty much a gift, because some kids, obviously all kids last year didn't even get to have a spring season. So,
Right. You talked about those seniors, and you mentioned girls basketball, and the girls had a phenomenal season last year, and the tournament was just about to start. I think they might have played one game, and then it got shut down. So, I mean, you never know how that season would have turned out for those girls either.
yeah, actually, with us, we actually played. We won our first round game, and we actually lost in the second round. And then the next 3 days later, the tournament was stopped. So our season actually did conclude.
Oh, okay.
Although it
Yeah.
lost, it finished with a loss. It was nice that they were able to actually have a finish to the season, because, like, the team who beat us, they never played again. Other teams that didn't get to finish their season, teams in our league, teams of coaches I know, that didn't get to finish a season, especially guys I know that even coach boys basketball. Some teams I think about that were state championship contenders, and not to be able to finish that season was pretty tough on a lot of people.
Right. And, Coach, you know, uh, I think this would have been your fourth official year, but it's actually your third season because of the pandemic. You
Yeah.
replaced a man that coached, I want to say, 37 years at Ansonia. So it's never easy to do that. Did you feel any pressure your first year when you took over?
Um, Obviously, there's pressure to follow somebody that's basically been Ansonia baseball for 40 years. Coach Vaca started as a freshman coach, I believe, in 1972 or 73, in that
Right.
area. He took over as the head coach in 78. So he actually coached 40 years of baseball. He coached a lot of my uncles, a lot of relatives of mine. He coached myself. He coached my two brothers. He loved the town of Ansonia. He loved Ansonia baseball, but it wasn't just this high school team that he cared about. He cared about the Babe Ruth. He cared about Little League. he truly cared about each and every kid that came through the program, and even kids who only played a year for him. He always would check up on them. So he's somebody, he can't be replaced. I did not try to fill his shoes
Right.
at all. I was an assistant for him for almost 20 years myself. So I just tried to keep the love of the program going and the teamwork of the program, because reaching out to former players and making sure people are up to speed with the current team, because Coach Vaca always stressed the Ansonia baseball family. He stressed that way back when I first was around it, when I was a kid watching my uncles play, and I lived through it, played through it, and then I'm just trying to keep that tradition of having people understand to be proud about the program that they played for and to follow the current team. So that's all I
Right.
tried to do.
Right. And Pat, you played for him around a great time where there was so many talented Ansonia baseball players from 94 to 96, and your 96 team made it all the way to the state championship final. Just talk about, that team a little bit, because I think, the 95 team, a lot of people thought could win it, but I think, as good as 96 was, there were some people that were very surprised they got as far as they did.
Yeah, I was lucky to go to Ansonia at a time where all our sports were good. Most people, when you say Ansonia, the first thing they say is football. And when you win 20 state championships, obviously that should be done. But when I was in high school, our basketball team, when I was a sophomore, went to the semifinals. And when I was a junior, we won a state championship. And when I was a senior, we lost in the quarterfinals. And our baseball team, when I was a sophomore, was a very good team who was a game or two away from winning the league. And actually, in the second round of the tournament, got upset in a game. But that was a 15-5 team. My junior year, we lost in the semifinals to the eventual champion, Berlin, in a 3. I think it was 3-1 game at Cheshire High School, I remember. And my senior year, we made it to the state finals, played a very good East Catholic team who actually had lost to Berlin in the state championship the year prior. And we just came up short and lost that game 5-3, but I wouldn't trade those memories for anything. We finished with 19 wins, and that season just one less than we really wanted, but 19 wins is the most wins that the program has had, definitely in the last 30 years. 19 wins has not been reached by any other team besides the 96 team.
Right. And, you talk about that era of 1993 to 1996. All three sports, football, basketball, and baseball. I mean, it was just a great time in Ansonia because, just like I said, again, so much talent and so many championships during that time.
Yeah, definitely. It was a fun part to be a part of. Definitely.
Right. So now, Coach, let's talk about the 2021 season. First off, congratulations on making the tournament. That's what I wanted to ask you, too. I mean, as a head coach, is that the number one goal when the season starts more than anything else? I mean, sure, you would like to compete for your league, but I would think if you make the tournament, you would say we had a good season, correct?
Yes. One thing that the NVL does not get enough credit for is for the top half of the baseball league. There's 8 to 10 teams every year in the NVL that as baseball teams that could contend for a state title in their respective classes. And I don't think enough people give credit to the league for that. People think of the NVL in football, they think of Ansonia and Naugatuck and Woodland and stuff. And in basketball, they think of the Waterbury schools. But baseball, I mean, a lot of schools in the NVL, their best boys sport is baseball. And I don't think enough people understand that. So it is a very competitive league, a very tough league to navigate in. And the team first team goal every year is to make the state tournament, besides each player getting better each day. So when we reached that first goal, it was nice. It wasn't an easy task. We ended up getting our 8th win in a 1-0 game against Derby. So it was nice to get that 8th win, My first 2 years, we made the state tournament, but it was not due to us clinching the 8th win. They have the rule of CIAC where they fill out the 32 team bracket. So my first 2 years, we finished 7-13, but made the tournament as a 30 seed both years because 32 teams have to make it. So it was nice to actually earn it and get the 8 wins on the field to get into the tournament.
Right. And, Coach, you talk about the 1-0 win against Serbia. A big reason of your success, and it's in any type of baseball. I don't care what anybody says. Pitching wins in the long run. You have 2 pitchers on the team. I think one's a sophomore, Dylan Ellison, I believe, and you have a junior by the name of Brendan Palmer. And both of these guys they each combine, for 8 wins. So that's tremendous by them. Just talk a little bit about your pitching staff.
Yeah, something that I learned at a young age is pitching is the thing you want most on your baseball team. Coach Vaca always stressed pitching and defense. Those things have to be there day to day, and we stress the same thing. We're very lucky to have 2 pitchers that are both not seniors, so we know we have them back next year. But Brendan Palmer is he's just a very fluid pitcher, very easy going, throws a lot of strikes. He got thrown really into the fire as a freshman. He was our number 2 starter and hadn't played at any varsity baseball, obviously being a freshman. So he did a very nice job as a freshman, being put in a position that in most baseball programs he'd have been pitching JV games or freshman games. But he got put in a spot, and he had some success. He also had some lumps, which obviously is going to happen as a young kid navigating in his first high school season. But I think it was an unbelievable learning lesson for him. And then to not have a sophomore season, some kids, I mean, believe me, there's kids I coached and there's kids in other teams and other programs that you see didn't take advantage of that year off to get themselves physically better. Brendan did, and it's showing on the field. Dylan Ellison, who's a sophomore, again, had his freshman year taken away, and he would have been in the mix to possibly get some innings as a freshman as well. So he's basically a freshman on the field, but he's been our leadoff hitter for most of the year, our number 2 pitcher. He plays shortstop when Brendan pitches because Brendan plays short when he doesn't pitch. And then if neither of them are on the mound, Dylan has played an excellent center field for us. So both players, it's a pleasure to have. They're willing to listen. There's a lot of work for them to keep doing, but they're in a good position. And if they keep improving like they did from 2019 to now, if they make another improvement over the next 6 to 9 months of the offseason, I think we could compete with the big boys in the MVL next year, knowing that every other game we have one of them on the mound.
Right. And Coach, being a former pitcher like you were, that's a benefit for any pitcher that's on this team because, there's things you could teach them that maybe, a coach who doesn't, really know a lot about pitching can't. Just talk to me. What are some of the things you talk to these 2 about, as far as keeping their arms, healthy and things like that?
Yeah. Well, I stress a lot in terms of maintenance of their arm. I always was a fan of making sure I iced my arm each day after pitching or even a long toss and stuff to keep the arm in good shape. Also, conditioning, running, a lot of you got to run sprints, distance, whatever you could do. But the first thing that's going to start going on you is your legs on the mound. So you need to be as strong as possible there. And just really a mindset. I try to the kids, they really sometimes get caught where they're not thinking as much as they should on the field. And I tell them as pitchers, think about when you're nervous in the box as a hitter. You don't feel comfortable when you're in an 0-2 count. You don't feel comfortable when you're in a 1-2 count. So why wouldn't you want to get the batters you're pitching to into that uncomfortable situation that you feel when you're in the box? So stressing that first pitch strike, but also really attacking at the 0-2, 1-2 count, not to get 0-2 and use 3 pitches. Now all of a sudden you're 3-2, and then it's a level playing field. You could look up stats. 0-2 counts and 1-2 counts in the major leagues. People don't hit over 100. So at the high school level, it's even lower. So I try to stress to them, take advantage, get ahead in the count, and take advantage of being ahead in the count, and put the hitters away when they're feeling the most vulnerable.
Right. You mentioned about last year's team. You would have only had 4 seniors. This team, not many seniors either. Just who are the seniors on this team?
We have 2 seniors, Matt Blackwell and Ant DeBlasi.
Right.
2 years ago, Matt Blackwell was our starting catcher. He was our starting catcher as a freshman and sophomore. And Ant DeBlasi did not play as a freshman. He didn't come out for the team. As a sophomore, he was a pleasant surprise and won the second base job during the preseason 2 years ago.
Right.
Again, and then for this year, I mean, Matt has been our do everything type of guy. He's played 7 of 9 positions during varsity games this year. The only 2 positions he hasn't played is second base and pitcher. And we had a freshman catcher that I thought could handle being put behind the plate. So we kind of used Matt as almost like a utility guy. He played,
right,
like I said, 7 of 9 positions. And then actually recently our catcher, because of close contact in school, had to be out for 10 days. So Matt caught our last 4 regular season games. And we're navigating what we're going to do for the tournament. But our freshman catcher, Ajmer, has done a wonderful job in the 14 games he caught. And Matt did a heck of a job in the 4 games that he took over. So it's a good problem to have now. I have 2 catchers because Matt's first 2 years as a freshman and sophomore, he was really our catcher. And if there was ever an issue with injury or something, I really don't even know who would have caught
right.
for us. So he's been a pleasure to have around the team, to see his growth from 2 years ago, where he didn't have that good of a sophomore year after a pretty successful freshman year, and to see him bounce back and really not take it to heart that he didn't have as much success as he thought he would as a sophomore. And that's baseball. You play a 20-game season. You get a 2-week slump or 3-week slump, and all of a sudden the season's over. So it's not easy to deal with, but he's done really well. Ended up just yesterday got voted to the All-MVL team as an outfielder. Batted
Congratulations to him. Yes.
Yeah, batted .420 for us this year, had 2 home runs and 21 RBIs. And then Ant DeBlasi this year has been a little bit, we've kind of moved him around as well. He's played each of the outfield positions, and he's DH'd for us a lot. So I would think he's either going to be in our state tournament game in the outfield or DHing for us, because we have a sophomore second baseman who we wanted to use at that position. So Ant was very receptive to kind of moving around the field to do whatever. It's nice to have you 2 seniors. They're 2 of our 3 captains, Brendan Palmer being our 3rd captain. But to have 2 kids being unselfish as they were for us, who were predominantly infielders their whole career, to see 2 seniors say, hey, I'll play outfield, I'll catch, I'll do whatever to help the team. It's nice because it resonates down to your younger kids, and they see that it's not just about them, it's about the team first.
Right. And you talked about Matt making All-League, and I'm sure for you as a coach to see the work he's put in that you just mentioned and how he's played all over the field for you, you feel very happy for him to see that he was rewarded for his hard work.
Yes, no, he definitely. I mean, he brought his batting average is almost 200 points higher than it was as a sophomore. He really deserved it. It's tough too because he didn't really have a position, so you can't really put exactly where you thought he could get, where he'd get voted in. But yesterday was our all-league meeting, and Matt made All-MVL, and also Brendan Palmer made it as what they use as a
Brendan too.
Yeah, he made it pretty much as a pitcher, but in terms of the roster position, he was a utility person for All-MVL. And then Dylan Ellison made the All-Copper Division team as a sophomore. And
that's awesome. Congrats to Dylan as well.
Yeah. So to have 3 players from Ansonia be in either all MVL or all division is something. It's a reflection of their hard work, and it's a reflection of the rest of the team as well. And the kids, all the kids were happy for all three of them. Our group gets along really well. They're able to kind of make fun of each other and keep it loose during the day at practice. And I tell them a lot, you have to have that level of some comedy day to day in baseball, because if you take baseball too seriously, you could drive yourself crazy, because it's a sport that you're going to fail more than you succeed in any position you play, except probably pitcher. Because a really good hitter in high school is going to bat 400, and he's still getting out 6 out of 10 at bats. So you're definitely going to have more failures than successes. So to have a group that can handle that, not get too high, not get too low, and be able to joke around on a daily basis, I think helps keep the group tight and together through the good and the bad times.
Right. Coach, just talk to me about around the rest of the field. Who do you have that, plays the other key positions?
Well, like I said, we talked about the 2 pitchers. Our catcher was Ajmer Pedraza. He's a freshman. He's exceeded our expectations in terms of his freshman year. Now we've really gotten into his head that, hey, it was a nice freshman year, but we need you to make that step as a sophomore to improve the things we've been working on with him all year. John Gentile is somebody who helped with Coach Vaca for the 40 years he coached, and he was able to free up enough time to come back and help with us this year. He was unable to help my first 2 years, and he's somebody who has worked with catchers in our program for 40 plus years. He's had over, I think, anywhere from 8 to 9 all-state catchers that he has groomed over the years. So for Ajmer to get that experience around him it's priceless. And he comes when he can. Again, he's not there daily, but he's there as much as he can. And the kids see that. They understand that it's somebody, again, back to the talking about the baseball family and giving back. And he's somebody that helped us a ton. At first base is actually my nephew, who's also a freshman. He's played baseball, his whole life, and he's bounced around. He's always been somebody that is willing to go wherever to help the team. So he's never really been a first baseman by trade, but we kind of worked him into it, and he's grown in that position as well. Our second baseman is Aiden Sheehy, who's had a very good year as a sophomore, but again, did not have a freshman year. So it's like he's a freshman as well. He's actually worked his way where he's our leadoff hitter now, probably our best overall fielder right now in the infield because he's there each game. At shortstop, like I mentioned before, when Brendan Palmer doesn't pitch, he plays short. When he pitches, Dylan plays short. At times, Matt Blackwell's played short, and Aiden could slide over there if needed as well. At third base, we've used a few guys, but for the most part, it's been Tyler Picarillo, who's a junior. Tyler has done a good job at the plate for us. Tyler's has gone through some tough injuries, and he's tore one of his knees. He tore the ACL in that knee back-to-back seasons playing football. So he's somebody whose body has taken a beating as a freshman and sophomore, and he's somebody as a junior who's given us a spark in the lineup. There's some games he plays third. There's some games he DHs. But, again, another kid who we're happy to have back next year, another kid who it gets along with everybody in the dugout. I told him the second week of the season, I heard him talk more in the first week of this year than I heard him talk in 2 years being around him. And I think it's just, you see these kids finally realize, like, you can't take this stuff for granted because it was taken away last year. And I think it's, for all the bad that the pandemic did, I think the one positive people could get out of it is a lot of people realize that they took a lot of nice things for granted. And
definitely.
And I definitely see that with the kids. And outfield has been, I've never really been on a baseball team that didn't really have many outfielders by trade. So we've kind of shuffled the board. Jordan Brown, who's a junior, has played pretty much left field. He's also been our 4-hitter all year, and
Yes,
our
good hitter too.
yeah, and our third pitcher. He's somebody. He's an odd case. He was somebody I saw play Little League when my nephew played. He was one of the older kids when my nephew was younger, and he was a very good Little League player. Somebody who, as a freshman, actually was academically ineligible, and then last year lost the season. And again, another case of somebody I think that possibly may have taken for granted what he had offered to him. But to have 2 years in a row where you didn't play, I think has made him appreciate the game more. His grades are way up. He's putting in the effort in the classroom, which is first and foremost in our program. And he's had some success at the plate and on the mound. And he's pretty much locked down left field for us, where he was kind of DHing and playing the outfield early in the year.
Right.
Center field's also been a revolving door. We've had Dylan Ellison there, Matt Blackwell there, but for the most part, we've had a freshman there as well, James Makita, who we've DH'd for at times, but he's also gotten plenty of at bats as well. So again, another kid who's a young player that's learning on the fly on the varsity level. So there's always going to be positives and negatives with that as well. And then right field, again, we've kind of moved people around. Anta Blasi has played there. Another freshman, Tom Rolfe, has played there.
Yeah.
Makita's played there before. Blackwell's played there. So outfield has been kind of a game of musical chairs pretty much out there. But everybody has done their best out there. And our main thing is we're trying to get our best 9 bats in the lineup and be able to hopefully navigate defensively. And there's definitely been struggles. We've had games where we had 2 games this year where we had 9 errors, and it happens. But we also had 3 games with no errors. So it's all a learning experience. I think they've taken the good with the bad. There's been a few times this year, obviously you're dealing with teenagers that I didn't see the effort and energy that we were looking for. But again, that's something that baseball could do to you. And anytime I ever saw our team down a little, I'd mention the 4 seniors from last year. And how could you not give an effort when 4 kids that were your teammates didn't even get to play their senior year? Yeah, so it kind of snaps them right back into reality that, hey, they should be taking it. They can't take it for granted. And 99% of the season, I've been extremely proud of our effort and energy as a team.
Right. And, you talk about some of these kids who've played out of position, and sometimes that's hard to have a good team when kids are learning different positions, and yet, it all culminated in making the tournament. So that alone has to make you very proud.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice feeling. I'm lucky enough to have about 4 or 5 guys who come and volunteer their time that played for Ansonia, who are just basically volunteer coaches. We have a JV coach, John Stankus, who works in the schools. He actually went to Sacred Heart High School in Waterbury. He's graduated in 1999. Somebody who had success as a role player. In winning 2 state championships. He was on the team for both a basketball and baseball state championship at Sacred Heart. And the kids see him daily in school. He works in the school, so that's good to have somebody in the school. I always advocate to at least have somebody on your staff in the school. I wish I could be there, but I'm not a teacher. It's good to have somebody there. But then I have a former teammate of mine, Jared Laviano, who helps out. He graduated a year after me in Ansonia, played in the Ansonia program. John LaRova, who graduated in 2000, who is like the K to 12 math. He's the head of all math for the Ansonia School District. So he's somebody that comes when he can, but also, he's married, he has 2 kids, and has a full-time job that keeps. So he's getting there whenever he can. And then I have 2 players who I actually coached when I was assistant, the Pitney brothers, Tom and Matt Pitney, that come and help when they can. And the kids see that, and they see these people giving their time. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Coach Gentile comes when he can. And then also a former teammate of mine in college, Ben McCula, comes
Right.
by to help with hitters when he can, because as you mentioned before, the kids are lucky to have somebody who's had a lot of pitching experience around as a coach. But me as a hitter, I had some hits here and there in high school, but I'm not somebody, I don't think, that could give the best advice in terms of hitting. And Ben McCool is somebody who's one of the best hitters I ever played with in the high school travel team we had. And then in college, he's still one of the best hitters I ever seen. So it's always good to get somebody's knowledge around the kids. And again, somebody who has 3 kids and works and all that stuff, so he can't be there daily, but he gets there when he can.
Right.
And it's a big help. And all that staff, all those helpers, they're all a part of those 8 wins, more than anybody. If you don't have those assistants, I mean, there's been a couple days where it's just been me and Coach Stankus there, and it's
Right.
hard. And we only got 18 guys. I mean, these programs that have 30, 40 guys in their program,
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you don't have the support staff, it's hard to navigate. And you want to get the kids as many reps as possible and all that stuff. So to have on our weekends, that's why we try to practice on the weekends, because that's the best chance to get all those coaches there. So they've been a big help. The kids buy into what they're talking about. And again, it all goes back to that Ansonia family. Like Coach Vaca had former players helping when I played, and then I became a former player that helped. And then
Right.
we have 4 or 5 now that are former Ansonia players that come and help as well.
Right. So, Coach, let me ask you: have you guys even found out who you're going to play in the tournament yet, or are you still waiting?
It's still waiting. Something I've always liked to do is try to navigate who you're going to draw before their official rankings are out. There's still regular season games that could be played all the way up until Thursday of this week. But
Right.
I think I've narrowed us down to most likely we're going to play either Weston or New Fairfield, who are both very good programs in the SWC. So neither matchup will be an easy task,
Right.
and it will be on the road. But it's looking like those 2 are very possible as our first round opponent.
Right. And you guys are in the M this year, correct?
Yeah, and the M, if you look at that list, there is not too many bad teams in the Class M tournament. I mean, Double L is usually the cream of the crop in terms of whoever comes out of that is usually the number 1 team in the state. But the number 1 team in the state right now is in Class M, and that's East Catholic. Again, we go back to that East Catholic team that
Right.
haunts me from 25 years ago. But again, they have a kid who's going to get drafted probably in the first round as a pitcher. But you go down that list of the M teams. I mean, there's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of good teams from our league in the M tournament. And it's not going to be easy no matter who you draw, and whoever comes out of that M is going to be truly a state champion.
Right. Well, Coach, I'm sure you tell your players you just got to take it game at a time. Right now, you just got to see who you're going to play, and that's got to be the goal, to try to beat that team, whoever it may be. But
Yep.
really, when you look at it this year, I mean, everything that went on, I really feel like you guys had a tremendous season, and your coaching staff and the kids should all be proud of yourselves.
Yeah, I try to let the kids know that to enjoy the success. And again, 8 and 10, you see that doesn't jump off the paper at you. But to have a team that hadn't been together in 22 months, have a team that you're starting 3 freshmen, you're starting 2 sophomores that are basically freshmen because they didn't have a season last year, only to have 2 seniors, stuff like that, and to win 8 games in our league. And I would be shocked if you don't see some NVL teams in semifinals and state championship
Right.
games. So I wish all the teams as much success as possible, unless we end up playing them. But it's a good league. It's starting to get recognized for how good the league is, but the best way to do that is to be successful in the state tournament. And I'd be shocked if teams aren't successful. But again, like I said, we got a lot of teams from our league in Class M. So, and it's not an easy run. So, again, wish all them the luck, unless we run into, if we run into them ourselves. But, yeah, and we got 2 JV games this week to finish out for those kids.
Oh, good.
And
Yeah.
we just secured a scrimmage with Cheshire on Thursday,
Oh, nice.
who's going to be in their class tournament. But it's also good to we've pretty much scrimmage teams from the SEC because that's the best league in the state, and you want to scrimmage against the best. You want to prepare yourself against the best so that no matter what the league or the state tournament throws at you, you've seen comparable talent. And Cheshire's a very good program. I got lucky enough to get in touch with their coach, and we set up a scrimmage. Actually, we just finalized it about a half hour ago that we're going to be playing them on Thursday to get prepared, and then give them a little bit of the weekend off, and then we'll practice Monday, and then the state tournament starts Tuesday, June 1st. So.
Wow. So everything's going to get rolling. Well, Coach, I really want to thank you for coming on. Number one, I think you're doing great with this program. I think your coaching staff's doing an awesome job. And, I think, after losing somebody who coached, like you said, pretty, 40 years, for you to come on, you're doing a great job. And I applaud you for that. And I really do wish you and the team the best of luck. And, we will be rooting for you to take this thing home.
All right. Thank you. And I enjoyed doing this, and thank you for your coverage of all people and stuff in the Valley area. That it's nice to get recognized and let the kids be talked about and stuff like that. So we appreciate you doing the work you do.
Well, thank you for that, Coach. I appreciate that. And again, best of luck, and thank you again.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Coach. Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yep. Well, you just heard that was Ansonia High School baseball coach Pat Lynch, whose team finished the regular season 8-10. They're in the tournament. We wish them the best of luck. And like I said, this is a new segment we're going to do. It's called In the Spotlight. Hometown Heroes will still be going on, but I feel like, this is our chance to kind of recognize, other people who are doing great things. And I'm going to try to have some of the athletes on these shows. I'm hoping to have one for the next show. I'll keep you posted. I'm going to post this on our Facebook, and I will keep you, in tune to everything that's going on. But this is a great new segment. We really think we're going to have fun, and we look forward to it. So for In the Spotlight, this is Mike Kenichi saying goodbye, everyone.